Hey, what's up? My name is Chris, and welcome to Coding in Public. I was working on this header area, and I wanted to have a nice blur effect on the text here just to make sure that no matter how this image was positioned on mobile or desktop, it would be easy to read the text. And it looks great on Chrome. I even have this nice highlight on the top and the left. And then I opened Safari. And I came over here and realized that it was not taking effect at all. Well, easy enough, I thought, let me just add in a WebKit prefix. And so that's what I did. In fact, I just hard coded it. You can, of course, also get these autoprefixers using some tooling. But once I showed up again, here it is. And I'm like, hey, great. It's working great on Safari. Well, then I opened Firefox and realized that, oh no, it's still not applying. And that's because, as far as I know, there's no way to set a backdrop filter in Firefox. So there may be a prefix, but at least I couldn't find it, and all the tooling I was using was not finding it. So I started wondering, okay, let me just kind of carve out this use case and make sure that however I access this, whether it's on Safari or whether it's Firefox or some kind of Blink browser, whatever it is, that I should be able to have this text be readable instantly, even if it doesn't look identical in all three browsers. And that's what this video is about. It's about carving out supports for different features in CSS. Before I show you how to use the @supports rule, let me first of all talk about autoprefixer. Now, there are other ways to prefix things. You can just type it in manually like I have here. But what autoprefixer does, it's a post-CSS plugin, is it basically parses your CSS and adds vendor prefixes. So for instance, here's how it is in kind of standard CSS placeholder, but for browsers that don't support that, they might have some kind of prefix that allows you to still get the same functionality. And rather than remembering them like I've done here and just manually typing it, you can run it through an autoprefixer and it will actually do all that for you. Now, I'm not going to show you how to do that today because today is about the @supports rule, but that's the first thing to note about kind of making sure your CSS works across all browsers. But even if I were to run this through autoprefixer, there is no way to actually apply a backdrop filter in Firefox. And so it's not going to do anything aside from what I've already manually typed here. And it's those use cases where you want to use something called @supports. At its most basic, you can see what it allows you to do is to specify certain declarations that depends on whether or not the browser supports that, and then write rules inside of that. So like a media query, except it's called a feature query, as you can see up top here. So in this case, they're saying, hey, if it supports display grid, then go ahead and put this on the div. All right, and then you can also do negation as well, so like not display grid. So let's kind of talk through how you might use this. At its most basic, you could just come over here and say something like this. So @supports, and what we're going to type is in parentheses here, we'll say backdrop filter, and then blur like this. So this is the function we're wanting to support. Now, like we see over on the right, we're going to actually make this a negation. So not, if it does not support that, then what I want to do is say background color is equal to, and actually let's just take this right here, and let's just make it basically a darker color. So something like 0.8. And of course, I need to have this inside of some kind of selector like the H1. Now, if I come over here and refresh, you can see now it's taking on a darker color, and that looks great. Now, the only trouble is if I come back over this way, you're going to see that now Safari has also picked that up because it doesn't support that. Now, Chrome looks the exact same over here because it's basically skipped by that rule. Well, with the @supports, you can actually combine things. And this I did not know until I started playing around with this the other day. If you use this a lot, that's probably pretty obvious to you, but I didn't. So you can see here we've got not supports, and then it's nesting all of this stuff inside of here. So you can see here they've got two different rules, and this second one is the one I'm talking about. You've got an and selector between these two. So you're saying it does support grid, and it does not support display inline grid. Now you can use and or, and that's what we're going to do. So we can do this in two ways. We can nest all of this and say it does not support filter blur like this, and it does not. And notice I'm putting all of these, each of these sections in their own parentheses here. And then let's just copy this down and change one thing. So it does not support normal, or it does not support the WebKit prefix. Now, if I come up here and refresh, that should still be that darker color. And over here, now that is actually working properly. Now, of course, if I prefer, I can put this up top here like that, and put this down inside here, and just drop the knots here and say if it supports that, and then we don't want and, we would want in this case or. So either of those, then go ahead and do this lighter color so that our default is actually this right here that you see in Firefox. And then over this way, this would just be signaling out or pulling out these two use cases, either for things like Chrome or things like Safari. Again, when would you reach for something like the @supports rule? Well, really, it's just when autoprefixers won't do the trick. And when you get stuck there, this is the place to look, the @supports rule. All right, thanks so much for watching. I will drop a link to a code pin in the description, but if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Happy coding.